Julian Jenkins, one of Udemy's highest rated instructors and author of From a Burden to a Blessing. How have spirit helped you to become successful?
I think it's an interesting question because, first of all, how do you quantify success? For me, success is being as good as you can be. So it's being your best self. You can't be anybody else, they're taken. So it's been an interesting thing. Spirit for me, through my life, I suppose, has always been there. And it's really helped me in this next phase of my life where I've come out of the commercial world of sport and everything else, and has come over to the spirit side. And I've had my guide Ronnie with me since the age of 5, so I've never not known spirit being in my life. But as we all know, parts of our life we feel as if we're more into it than we're not. So your life takes over with work, with family, with all of these things, and you think you leave spirit a bit, but you don't.
How do you define God, and and do you need to believe in God to be spiritual? Because this is a complicated subject, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Then you hit the big questions right at the beginning, I suppose, straight in. Just mention the God word. Yeah, no, I hope they do. No, but I think, look, whether you call him God, whether you call him the divine spirit, whether you call him the superior intelligence, whatever you want to, whatever vernacular term you want to use for it, it's you. It's your own personal relationship and your own being on that. And that's why, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious.
Yeah.
And I want to buy a parcel of land from somebody, and it turned out to be the Church of Wales. So I had to go and see this minister and sit with him and say, I'm a Christian spiritualist. And he said, that's impossible.
Right.
I said, no, it's not. He said, yes, it is. I said, I know it's not. He said, how's that? I said, because I'm stood in front of you. I can believe in God and I can believe in Jesus, but I believe that we have the ability to talk to people who have passed over and connect into the divine spirit and the divine light and all of those things. And his belief system is that, no, you shouldn't do that. You should only connect with, you only need to speak to one person, which is God.
Yeah.
And I love all of that because that's his views, but I can only tell him and speak as I found. And my experience with God and my experience with Jesus is based on my own experiences. And I never preach. I'll never talk about religion, really. They say religion and politics. I don't do any of that because I just have my own belief system. And my belief system is there is a divine being, there's an intelligence, there's a God, if that's the word you want to use. I believe Jesus walked this planet 2,000 years ago. I don't believe everything that's written in the Bible. And I don't think that we should be forced that, because I always remember seeing this. There's a great picture for me that just said it all. There was a picture of a goldfish in a goldfish bowl, and underneath it said religion. Then there was a picture of a fish in the sea.
Right, yeah.
And it said spirituality.
Yeah.
And I believe, unfortunately, that religion, in many ways, has been hijacked for control through fear.
Yeah.
If you don't do this, that'll happen. If you don't do this, this will happen. Put your hand on the screen, give me $10, and this will happen.
Yeah.
It's become an industry.
Yeah.
And it's been hijacked in many ways. And I think we've lost some of that. And I think people have fallen out with religion because of the control mechanism, and that control in the main is born out of fear.
Yeah.
That if you're naughty, the devil's going to come and get you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So someone that's religious follows a religious path. Can they develop spiritually? Can they open up?
Yeah, of course they can. It's up to them. I think, we talk about this spiritual awakening, and it's spiritual awakening and enlightenment, and when you say that, you get these lovely images of angels and flashes of thunder. A spiritual awakening in general is not very nice.
Yeah.
And it's normally brought on through a trauma or a life experience where you start questioning the status quo.
Yeah.
And you might be heavily religious and into God and a Christian and all of these things, but you don't, I don't know what your perception is of heaven and all of those things. But for me, being able to work with Jesus, work with God, work with spirit, work with all of these things, bring it together into this beautiful eclectic mix of spirituality and spiritualism is key to it. And I think, do you need to believe in God? No, you don't need to believe in anything. But I think ultimately, if you're connecting into spirit and you're having an experience with the energy and the people or beings or whatever you want to call it who's passed over, and you don't believe in God, then I'm sure there's more questions than there'll be answers, because how does all this work if there isn't?
How does it all fit?
How does it all fit?
Absolutely.
Where's the story? How is it, what's the lineage? And I think, for me, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. And I actually had that conversation with the minister. I said, the problem is, and this is quite controversial, I would have thought, that Jesus was a medium.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, he was a medium.
Yeah.
Because if you think about what he did, he came here and he had a connection with the divine. He could speak to spirit. He healed.
Yeah.
He taught spirituality.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm Jesus Christ, but that's what I do.
But yeah, he had those abilities.
And I think actually, if he came back today,
yeah.
your very own religion wouldn't accept him.
Yeah.
Because you'd say he was a geek, or he was a medium,
Charlatan.
or he was a spiritualist.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that, so and that's my belief. I believe, obviously, there was the Leonardo picture of Jesus with a crystal ball, and that's just been sold as highest selling costume of a painting in the world. Like 500 million it's gone for.
Yeah.
And who paint? Why? What's that from? Where's all that?
Symbolism.
What's the symbolism?
Absolutely.
And again, you've got to be careful, because people have their own beliefs. All I'm saying is what I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe that Jesus came to this planet to have a human experience, because he wanted his only son at that stage to feel it and everything else. But ultimately, we're all the children of God. We've all got a God particle inside us.
Yeah.
And it's whether we awaken it to feel that God particle, and actually it's deep in us.
Yeah.
That we can sense and feel it and have that oneness, which is the most amazing feeling ever.
So there's spirituality and then there's mediumship. So can you explain the difference?
I think spirituality, spiritualism is how I call it. Spirituality is the connection with yourself, the connection with people, connection with Gaia, the earth. And normally when you talk about things like yoga nidra or yoga or mindfulness or whatever form of meditation that is, to get that connection with yourself, checking in with yourself, checking in and living a mindful life. We're sat here now, but do we, what lampshade's up there? You wouldn't even know. But you've been in the room for 20 minutes because you're not mindfully in this room. You're not here in this space.
Yeah.
You're here to do something. You're not here to be something.
Yeah.
And we're all doers, we're not beers.
Yeah.
And we're human beings, not human doers.
Yeah.
And in all of those aspects of spirituality, but then spiritualism is a belief system.
Yeah.
That you don't die.
Yeah.
And that you can contact people who have passed over.
Okay.
So for me, it's spirituality is a connection and relationship with self and the world around you. And spiritualism is the connection and relationship with spirit who have passed over.
And mediumship, how does that come
in? Mediumship is the vehicle that we use, the term we use to connect with spirit.
Yeah.
So when people talk about psychics, that's when you're working with people's energy.
Yeah.
You're not working with spirit in the main, you're working with the conscious mind. So you can do things like remote viewing, EFT, all of that sort of stuff. When you're working with people's energies, giving them readings from picking up off their auric field, their etheric field.
Yeah.
And then there's mediumship. Mediumship is having the direct connection with spirit.
Yeah.
And then when you've got that connection, you can do whatever you want with it. Healing, readings, trance, physical, whatever you want to do. Okay. So there's a difference even within those things. And a lot of people, and it depends where you are in the world. In America, they call themselves psychic mediums, but that's just the term. But I bet you some of them aren't mediums and some of them aren't psychics.
Yeah, yeah.
Over here, we call them mediums. No, you can be a very good psychic and not a very good medium.
Yeah.
You can be a very good medium and not a very good psychic.
Yeah.
Because your connection with spirit could be strong, but your connection with energy may be poor.
Okay, right, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you need to develop your psychic gifts to live a spiritual life? So do you need to become a medium to be spiritual?
I think if you're talking about spirituality, it can live by itself. You can, the 70s and hippies and all of these things and the wonderful times here sat in Glastonbury. You can see it, feel it, you can sense the energy. You can be spiritual and just, be connected with everything that's around you. You don't, and you can have spiritualism, you can have the belief system that you can connect with spirit. But I think the magic happens when you bring the two together, because you have that connection and relationship with self. To be able to have a connection and relationship with spirit, it's like having the best cellular phone in the world, best mobile phone in the world, the iPhone 11. But if you've got no Wi-Fi and no signal, you can't connect anywhere.
That's what I've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where I live,
Yeah, so you can't.
Yeah.
So for me, you are the phone and you are the signal. And that's the connection with self and the connection, But then when you bring that together with the spirituality and then you bring it to the spiritualism and that you have that connection and relationship with yourself, and you have that connection relationship with spirit, it's amazing. You know, people say heal thyself before healing others.
Yeah.
You know, and there's that need to have. How can you connect to spirit when you're not connected to yourself?
Yeah.
Now you can, but I think it's going to be patchy, it's going to be sketchy, it's going to be, as it is, you hear so many people say, oh, I did a really good reading last week, but I didn't do a very good reading this week. I got this week and I didn't get that last week. And people always say to her, well, spirit must be, but actually come back this way. What have you done last week that's different? Oh, I fell out with my husband and he's left me. Well, that could affect your own inner connection. Why are you blaming spirit?
Yeah.
You've had some really things happen in your life that you need to reconnect with yourself, and then you'll see what your connection with spirit is.
So you need to have a consistent spiritual connection to then be able to do mediumship. I
think if you want to do this at a certain level where you have consistency and evidence, I think you need to have the blend, the hybrid of spirituality, mindfulness, connection, meditation, and mediumship. And don't forget, Gordon Higginson, who was one of the forefathers of spiritualism, who's taught at the Arthur Findlay College, is one of the people I unfortunately never got to meet him before he passed, but someone I look up to. In his book on page 11, which is quite an interesting number if you know numerology, he actually says that the best teachers coming forward will be the ones that truly understand the importance and the depth of meditation. Yeah. Meditation is the key that unlocks self, and is the key that unlocks spirit. And if you think that you're just going to wear green socks, jump up and down and say Spiriarum and you're going to be a medium, then you're greatly...
It's party tricks, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So how can a spiritual connection help someone to be successful or to be more of service?
I think if you think of it this way, and this is the way I check myself most days, and that is, I serve spirit, I develop myself, I heal people or help people.
Yeah.
Okay? So we got to remember that this isn't an individual sport, this is a team sport.
Okay.
That me as a medium, teacher, healer, or whatever term you want to use, I can't do this on my own, and I need the help with spirit. So for me, my commitment and my responsibility is to be able to live I believe, a value-driven life.
Yeah. So
with compassion, empathy, and all of these words that unfortunately are not widely known now in the world, but we'd like that to happen. To have all of those things, and then to be able to work with and build my connection with spirit so that I can help others and I can work with others. You know, some of the best mediumship I've seen is such healing. You know, people who have lost people and children and all those family, and people say, oh yeah, you know, you're preying on the vulnerable. Yeah, because unfortunately this whole movement has turned into an industry, and we know these things, and there are, like everything, there are good plumbers, there are bad plumbers, there are great builders, there are poor builders, there are fantastic cameramen and bloody awful cameramen. I'm glad we got the fantastic ones here today. But there are in every industry, and so how can it help you to become more successful? Again, how would you quantify success? Abundance for me is abundance, having abundance of friendship, abundance of love, abundance of health, abundance of all of these things. For me, money's never been a driver, even in all of the industry stuff that I've done, and I've run £50 million businesses. Money's been the byproduct of what I've done. Yeah. It's not been the sole reason. And I think what it can do for people is that they can understand and connect with themselves, so they can get a greater understanding of their skills and areas they need to develop. They can be more intuitive because they're more open to things. Things may push and guide them, or if you're really having a bad day, don't just do that. Do that and think about what you're going to do and just get that. So you're taking away some of the emotional intelligence and you're just having that spiritual intelligence, which is really important. So there's many ways you can use it to help your physical life. But I think that when you see what happens to a lot of people, is the word I use when I said my mantra, helping people help themselves, the word is balanced. Is actually, you take your physical experiences, your human experiences, and you can bring them into the work that you do with the spiritual, and you can bring the spiritual stuff into the work that you do with the physical. And I believe that's where the saying best of both worlds come from. Yeah. You can have this and you can have that, and remembering that, you know, when I help people through traumas and all of those things, and to get them to understand where they are, is that things happen for us, they don't happen to us. Yeah. and that all of the things that has happened in your life has allowed you to get to this point, so that when you're helping and healing others, you can say those magical words, which are, I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
Because I've been there. And real empathy is such a healing modality, rather than saying, I think I understand how you feel.
Yeah.
And moving on to some model of something you've read in a book from Carl Jung.
Yeah.
And it's more than that. It's the depth of it. It's the feeling of it. But it's having all of those things, and bringing it all together into this really beautiful, holistic way of helping people. And I was just having a conversation with some students now for lunch. I like to think I can relate to people because I'm not far left or far right. I'm middle ground, Julian. I've got polo shirt and jeans on, and this is who I am. But it doesn't mean I'm not spiritual.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm not connected. Love people who sit in fields all day going home. It's brilliant. But you don't need to be that. You can be, in brackets,
there's a stereotype,
normal.
isn't
Yeah,
there?
like in anything.
It can be off-putting, I think.
It can be
some
off-putting.
people that they don't. Oh, I don't want to turn into someone like that.
Yeah.
They can actually just be.
Yeah, and I think that's when I go over 11,000 students. It's just mad when I think of that number. 120 countries, 30 different languages. It's mad. But if you put all of the reviews into a word cloud, I think the words would pop up would be authentic, real.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to bring spirituality and spiritualism to the mainstream.
Yeah.
And say, actually, you don't have to have, whatever and sit in a darkened room with smoke and a crystal ball reading card. Okay, great. There's a market for it. But the reality is just be nice.
Yeah. I think we're all spiritual beings anyway.
Yeah, just be nice and just activate that God particle.
Yeah.
Come inside and actually activate yourself to say, I just want to be nice.
Yeah.
And then be amazed what does happen.
Yeah.
And what you do sense and what you do feel. And some people who have these wonderful spiritual experiences have no idea how they've done it or whatever they've done, but it's because they've put together that conducive environment to have those individual spiritual experiences, ISEs as we call them. And that's amazing in itself. So in a nutshell, I think if you can bring together the best of both worlds, but do it in a way that is, I like to watch a football, have a pint with my mates, go up the pub. But, when I'm Julian Jenkins, the medium, healer and teacher, I'm Julian Jenkins, medium, healer and teacher. When I'm Julian Jenkins watching football at the pub, then I'm Julian Jenkins watching football at the pub. You can have all aspects.
Yeah.
Don't be put off by thinking,
I have to give something up to do this.
You've got to give something up, Live a value-driven life, man. Don't tuck people up and don't flip someone for a fiver. All of those things. Have compassion, have empathy, have equality, have unconditionality. I was given a vision 15 years ago to build a spiritual centre. And I didn't know where it was going to be, and I didn't know what it was going to do, and they said, we'll do it. And they told me to go to this place called Llantyw Major in South Wales. And I went there not knowing why. And I couldn't think of a reason why. Just walked around there and there's no reason why. And then I kept walking and found a church. And the church, when I went in the church, there was 4 stones in the church from 500.
Right.
And the church is called St Illtyd's Church. And St Illtyd gave up all of his nobleness and his life and everything to dedicate his life to creating a spiritual centre.
Right.
On that spot.
In
the year 500.
Yeah.
And St Patrick and St David both studied there.
Oh,
There was over 2,000 people that studied through this church and through this thing, and I was like, I get it. And then they said, well, you've got to buy a piece of land that is going to be within the bells of the church, that has a river running through it, next to the orchard. And I'm like, so I found this piece of land.
Do you still not trust sometimes, or are you just like, oh, okay, guys?
But you got to find it, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's part and parcel. Yeah, when am I going to find it? Just tell me where it is. If you're any good, tell me.
Okay,
And I went and found this piece of land, and I thought, this feels right, but that feels even better, which was a forest, an ancient forest. And my wife was in Spain at the time, and she tracks me, so she had this Find My Phone app. And she said, where are you? She said, I know where you are. She said, you won't believe this, Joe, I'm going to send you a screenshot of where you are. And I found the forest, I found the piece of land, I found the river, I found I could hear the bells, but I couldn't find the orchard.
Ah.
But the road that backs onto it,
Yeah.
Orchard Drive.
Oh, wow.
And it was like,
Amazing.
this is incredible.
Yeah.
So I did a deal with Spirit and said, I'll give up all my commercial, and
Yeah.
the day I do, you put the money in the bank, I will go and find out who owns this land and I'll buy it.
Yeah.
And weirdly, it transferred on a Sunday.
Okay.
Weirdly. So I went on the land registry, I found out who owned it, wrote a letter,
Yeah.
got in my car, drove to his house, posted it through his letterbox.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes, my phone had rang.
Right.
Within 10 minutes, I was in his front room.
Right.
Within 20 minutes, I bought the land.
Amazing. There you go.
And when you look at things like that about, Spirit guiding you, success, all of those things, how does that happen?
Yeah.
How does that work? And ever since then, COVID hit, so everything's calmed down a little bit. But, those things, when you think about all of that, and then you find out that Atlantic Major is part of the Leylands with Glastonbury. It was part of what's called a Decagon of Power, where Glastonbury, Stonehenge and Atlantic Major. Atlantic Major is exactly the same angle and distance to Glastonbury as is Stonehenge.
Wow.
So it's part of a pyramid, so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Then I found out all about Joseph Arimathea, and then I found out about the tour where I live. I didn't realise, and Guy came up to my house 2 months ago and said, do you realise you can see the tour from your back garden?
Okay.
I was like, no chance, I'm in Wales, and you can. And,
wow.
and then I read about Joseph Arimathea. I downloaded, his dad came to me, Matthias, told me all about him and where he was and what he did. Then I read the book and it was all like that. Then I found out I'm from Cardiff. I found out then there's an ulterior theory that Joseph Arimathea was buried in Cardiff.
Oh.
So I'm like, Joseph Arimathea I feel sorry for him a little bit. He was actually Jesus's uncle.
Right.
He begged from the Romans to take him down off the cross.
Yeah.
And he put him in the bandages, put him into his tomb.
Okay.
It was his tomb where Jesus rose from.
Yeah.
Joseph Arimathea came here 3 years after Jesus' death. They believe the Holy Grail is in
Okay.
Tour.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a massive,
It's all linking.
massive backstory.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this,
Yeah.
but I've been shown it all.
Yeah.
Now I'm an ordinary guy who goes at the pub with the lads. I can't tell the lads this because I'm
Yeah, well,
in
they'll
an
be
alpha
now,
male
yes,
environment.
yes.
I'm in trouble. But and all of those things, and I've gone into a bit of depth about it all because I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because how would I know any of that?
Yeah.
History was like, in school, history was like old. I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested in tomorrow, not yesterday.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, how can Jesus' uncle, who took him down from the cross, put him in a tomb, left there for 3 years after because he was a tin merchant,
Right.
how can it be rumoured that he is buried in my city of birth
Yeah.
and his father's come to me in a vision?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah.
That's
it, you
It
can't.
could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
The legend is he's buried here, but there's another altar. He's buried in Cardiff,
Yeah.
my city of birth. And
Yeah.
before I knew any of this, his father came to me in a vision.
Yeah.
Matthias.
And you're getting all this information.
I get all this
it's matching
information.
up
And actually, I can see the tour where he's meant to be buried from my back garden.
yeah. Right.
And there's another theory, he was buried 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
From somebody who was Jesus' uncle.
Yeah.
Work that out.
So it's all linking up to your next path. Your
The next path was a
project.
spiritual centre. Is I was shown a drawing of what the spiritual centre needed to look like.
Okay.
And I drew it.
Yeah.
And it's roundhouses.
Okay.
So I went to this roundhouse company in mid Wales, and I phoned up this girl, and she said, "Can I stop you? How have you got all of this information?" And I said, "I don't preach." Okay. She said, "Well," I said, "I'm a Christian spiritualist." She said, "Brilliant, so am I."
Oh, right. Okay.
So I told her I was given the vision from my guides, from what I'm saying. I said, "Can I send you a picture?" So I sent her this picture that I'd drawn of what it looked like.
Yeah.
She went, "Oh my God, can I send you a picture?" And the picture was exactly the same as the first Christian settlement.
Oh,
It was in Glastonbury in 39 AD, which Joseph of Arimathea built.
Yeah. Interesting.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Central building, buildings around it,
Yeah.
with the main bit in the middle. It was just like, even the drawing of what I drew, you could probably nearly put it together with the Joseph of Arimathea.
Wow. That's incredible, isn't it?
How does that
So
work?
how can you can't make this up, can you?
No, you
It's
can't.
like you have to trust it.
You have to trust it and go with it, because there's no way in the world all of that could just...
Just all slotted
Yeah.
nicely
It's
together.
like putting a
yeah.
jigsaw puzzle together with your eyes closed.
Let's talk about ghosts.
Okay.
So a lot of people are really put off with sort of developing their spiritual
Mm-hmm.
side. They sort of say things like, "Oh, I don't want to see ghosts," or "I don't want to find out anything bad's going to happen to me." there's a lot of stuff on the internet about dark energy and people seeing dark things. Is that real?
No.
Okay.
And again, it's no from my perspective.
Yeah.
I believe there is no such thing as evil spirits.
Yeah.
There are evil people.
Yeah.
My dad used to say, don't worry about the dead ones, it's the live buggers you've got to worry about. And he's right. And I really do think that everything's about in this world is duality.
Yeah.
Okay, good versus bad and all of these things. And the Bible talks about the devil and hell and all of this because, again, I think that's a control mechanism.
Yeah.
You have to have a fear of loss. Otherwise, what's the point? And ghosts, I believe, are residual energy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all have energy. We'll leave energy in this room. Everything is energy. Everything is a vibration. And I believe when people pass over, that they can leave their residual energy there.
Yeah.
And somebody who is more susceptible and connected because of their awareness can sense it, feel it, and see it more than somebody who's not. Okay.
So it's not a conscious being.
No.
It's like
I don't believe.
an imprint.
It's an imprint.
Yeah.
And I believe that if that imprint is from somebody who was not very nice, then that physical would be not very nice.
Okay.
And I believe that's where it comes from. I've been with Spirit for 40 odd years. I've never had a bad experience. And I feel sorry for things like the Ouija board and all of those because, they've been shown on films to be horrendous. And everyone says, oh yeah, but I did a Ouija board. Yeah, you did a Ouija board in your kitchen after 2 bottles of vodka. And somebody was messing about and smashed the glass.
Yeah.
The stereotypical.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reality is, a Ouija board is a great form of divination.
Yeah.
Being able to use a tool to be able to connect and commit with spirit. So I don't believe that there's anything of evil spirits. And I believe that our subconscious mind can create those things to be able to keep a level of control because it doesn't want to, your subconscious mind doesn't want to be out of control, it wants to be in control because that's what, there's 40,000 decisions in your life every single day. Yeah. Breathing, seeing, hearing, whatever the scenario is. So for me, I don't think there's any fear.
Right, okay.
I don't think there's anything. If you want to, I get asked to go to people's houses for, if you really want to glorify an exorcism or whatever. The reality is I just go and disperse the energy. Yeah. Whether that's using sage or prayer or just doing certain things with it. And then they say, oh, it's amazing, they've gone. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just an energy.
So it's like their energy. So you're not, there's no energy that can attach to you or that is evil.
Well, the problem you've got is there's two things. So anything that manifests through a person's energy is not spiritually driven.
Okay, yeah.
It's an energy, it's a physical energy thing from the earth, from that person. We're exchanging energy now. Yeah. Yeah? And if I'm not a nice person and you're quite psychic, you'll go, I don't like that Julian Jenkins, he's a dodgy geezer, isn't he? And that's what you'll do. Yeah. Because that's your intuition, because you're reading my energy. Yeah. When I pass, our energy will be in this room. Yeah. And if somebody comes in and senses that energy, and I wasn't a very nice person, I'm going to pick that up. Yeah. But that energy and that evil hasn't manifested from spirit.
That's come from...
It's come from the person living his physical life as he was here. Yeah. There's a second part to that. And people say, yeah, but that's okay. But when a medium makes contact with these people, they're evil in spirit. Right, yeah. So how does that work? Well, it's simple. If you had an uncle who was horrible... Yeah. Okay, I don't need to comment. Right? Okay, if you had an uncle who was horrible and he went to spirit and he came through to speak to you, yeah, and actually he was as he is in spirit, yeah, you wouldn't recognise him. Yeah. Because he'd come through and say, oh, I've got a gentleman here, he says he's your uncle, what a lovely fella, yeah, what a lovely energy, he's full of love and compassion, and you go, that's not my uncle.
When he was alive, he was projecting.
So what he needs to do is he needs to allow you to feel as he was when he was here, for you to be able to recognise him, to be able to say, yeah, he was alright, so and so. Okay. Yeah? Yeah. And he'll give you that projection of his characteristics as was here on the earth. Yeah. Not as is in spirit.
But in spirit, he's just
divine, pure light and love.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's no evil spirits. There's just evil people. Yeah. But to get that message across, he has to be that person there, as was the person here.
Stepping down his energy.
Yeah, so but otherwise you're going to recognise him. Yeah, otherwise you're going to go, I can't understand that. Yeah. If your grandmother was nasty and she never smiled, but she's smiling in there and she's nice in energy, you're not going to recognise your grandmother. You're going to say, no, I didn't have my grandmother. She was alright, so and so.
Yeah, wrong family.
Wrong family. Yeah. No, exactly. So you think of, and again, for me, some of this, if you actually think about it, it's not complicated, is it? Yeah. It's not complicated. But again, we want to build this thing, this
Yeah,
image
yeah.
of it's not nice, it's nasty, you know, it's all of these things. And
Yeah.
the reality is, it's not.
Yeah.
And dark energies and all the rest of it is because the people who are dark energies. And
Yeah.
you're, if we come back here in the night and I started telling ghost stories, you're going to get scared.
Yeah.
Why? Because your subconscious mind goes, I don't like this. I'm going to get you out of here. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
feel right. Doesn't mean there's ghosts are going to come and hurt you.
Yeah. So when you're trusting in the guidance you're getting and things like that, that sort of dissolves. When you've got
Yeah.
this true connection, you sort of don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay. How can we define, when we're developing spiritually, how can we define what's real and what's our imagination?
Okay.
So,
It's
yeah.
probably the biggest single question I get asked. There's a couple of things really. First of all, does it matter?
Yeah, okay.
Go with it, see what
Yeah.
happens. Because if I would have thought it was my imagination, I wouldn't have gone to Lantuck Major.
Yeah.
The fact that I went and I actually found out that, gee, well,
All these things we're linking up, yeah.
this is special. That's the first thing. Second thing is, generally, if your imagination is doing something, you don't get a physical feeling.
Okay, right.
Okay, because if I'm sat here now daydreaming, thinking about playing golf or whatever the scenario is, I just daydream and it's my imagination. But if I have a spiritual experience, my heart will start racing. I'll feel a sensation in one of my chakras, or my solar plexus, or my third eye, or my crown, or whatever you want to, whichever one it is that is for you. You'll start to feel it. And also, with your imagination, if you're in your imagination, there's no call to action.
Okay, yeah.
So you're just imagining playing golf. You don't think, I've got to go and play golf. But if somebody comes to you and give you a message or whatever, there's a call to action.
Yeah.
So generally, who cares? Secondly, you'll feel it. And
Yeah.
third, you'll have an impulse from it.
Yeah.
And you'll feel like some people come through and say, I got to speak to you. I got to speak to you. Why? Because I had your father and he came in and he told me da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's, how did you know his mother? I could tell, he sensed him, I could feel him.
Yeah.
Yeah? And I had
It's
to
a
give you
really
the
visceral
information.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, when you first start, it might be a little bit more, softer and gentler and all of those things. And that's why
Yeah.
you need to trust it.
Yeah.
And again, spirit are not going to work with you if you keep writing everything off.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'll just turn around and say, waste of time, that one.
Yeah. Bored.
Bored, yeah, and we're here to help. So if that person's not going to
Yeah.
deliver what we want to deliver,
Yeah.
then I'll move to somebody else,
Yeah.
ultimately.
Okay. Brilliant. When I read your book, From a Burden to a Blessing, I realised that you've been sort of psychically open your whole life, but that's not the case for everyone. So if
No.
someone wants to develop their sort of spiritual side, their psychic gifts,
Yeah.
but they've never had that, what can they do? Is there some
Yeah,
things that they can
I
do?
think I think it's the big question, isn't it? Have I got the gift? Have I got the ability?
Yeah.
Can I do this? And I always use the analogy of, it's like singing. We can all sing. Some better than others. You can though. You could give us a song now, and some people you pay to listen to,
Yeah.
and some people you pay not to listen
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I
Okay,
think I might be one of
but
those, yeah.
I'm me, and I shouldn't be because I'm Welsh, right? But everybody can sing, but they have different levels of ability of singing.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the same with spiritualism, the
Yeah,
belief that you can connect and work with spirit,
yeah,
and we all have that ability. So some people will be great singers, some people will be like fire alarms and empty the room, right? Okay, so but you can all do it, and the way in which you have to do it, I believe, is connection and relationship with self, connection and relationship with spirit.
yeah,
It's about being able to go into that meditative state, create that beautiful space around you, set the intention, spirit come in, and just be with it. No expectation, no ambition, just be with it.
yeah.
Create that space and see what happens.
Okay,
That's it.
yeah,
It's no more complicated than any of that. The complication comes in the mastery, the perfection of doing that.
yeah,
Being able to move what I call your muggle mind, a
yeah,
Harry Potter thing. Muggles are people
Yeah.
who are not wizards. Being able to keep that subconscious mind to one side, to be able to create that space, lowering your level of altered consciousness,
Yeah.
coming out of beta, going into alpha, a little bit alpha theta, don't go to delta, you
Okay.
fall asleep,
yeah,
bringing yourself down through the lower forms of consciousness and raising your awareness. Being
Okay.
able to sit here, relaxing, but be able to feel a particle of dust over there.
yeah.
because that's then when the energy changes. I can feel cold air now coming right here. Okay, you can feel the energy changing, and you do that by practicing through meditation. When you do that, then you can bring people in.
Okay.
And then over a period of time, now again, you might be a great singer, and you can see them, talk to them, be with them, hear them. You might be a poor singer, and you just sense a presence or a colour change or a flick or something.
Yeah.
But that's all done through meditation.
Okay.
And of course, I have several Udemy courses that could really help you do that.
And what sort of intentions should people set? So to connect with a spirit guide, to
whatever they want at that time. You know, for me, the mechanism of being able to do that, and then set the intention of what you need at that time. So, you know, building relationship with your spirit guides.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people make a mistake that those relationships are transactional, I believe.
Yeah.
They're transactional based relationships. You only speak to your spirit guide when you want something.
Yeah.
You know, I want to do a reading, like, come on, I want a message, come on, I want. Whereas sometimes, why not just sit and have a spiritual cup of coffee with them and say, how are you, what are you doing? And that's the relationship I go with my guides.
Yeah.
You know, if you went and knocked your neighbour's door and asked him for a cup of milk, the first day he'll give it to you. Second day he might give it you. Third day he'll tell you to get the shop. So when you're working with spirit as a relationship, don't just keep knocking his door asking for a glass of milk. Sit with him, be with him, build that relationship, build that connection, and you know the magic will happen. So if anybody wants to know, you know, what intentions, just set the intention of being with spirit. Being with a guide, being with a loved one, being with an inspirer, a helper, being with the divine, being with yourself. It doesn't matter. Just learn to create that space, create that conducive environment of just being. And the healing and everything is just amazing.
Yeah, and it will just naturally,
organically evolve. The two biggest stumbling blocks is ambition and expectation.
Right, yeah.
We're humans, we want it all, we want it now. Yeah, and that's, you know, we haven't got any patience.
Yeah.
You know, everything has to happen. Fast has never been so fast.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody now wants everything now. You've got to have it now. You know, if I had to say to my grandchildren that you have to wait till next Friday at 5 o'clock to watch the next episode of your program, they look at me and say, "Bam, shang, laugh. Just press play."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the culture and environment that we've done. So people want answers now. They want to be connected with spirit. You know, I've meditated now for 3 days. Why haven't I had
But
God
thousands
come
of
to me?
years ago, people weren't living that fast-paced life. They were more connected to nature, so they were more connected to spirit, and
Correct.
it maybe came easier.
It would have come easier, and that's where a lot of the magic happened.
Yeah.
You know, through those years, maybe the medieval dark ages or whatever. But the reality was that yes, those are the things that were happening, and for years they were laughed at. You know, you come here and you see some of the stuff that happens here on the May days and all of these sort of things, and tonight with the full moon, and you know, there's going to be some real ceremonial stuff going on. People say that's a bit weird, but no, maybe what we're doing is weird. Maybe they're right.
Yeah, it won't be weird in a few decades, I don't think.
No, exactly. Well,
yeah. What's different about how you teach spiritual development?
I want people to understand the nuts and bolts. We spoke earlier on, you know, and I'm not here to downcry anybody. Everybody does it their way, and I get that, and that's perfect. But for many years, I was going to, you know, spiritual development circles or classes or whatever the scenario was, and they'd always, you know, I use the golf analogy, which we spoke about earlier, which is they teach you how to putt the ball from 3 feet into the hole, which is great. But then my question is, how do you get the ball 3 feet away from the hole? Yeah. You're 300 yards back. What tee do I use? What ball do I use? What club do I use? What happens if I go off out of bounds? What happens if I get in a bunker? What happens if I don't go on the fairway? You know, all of these things. And it's about bringing it back to really the basics of understanding this isn't very complicated. It's connection and relationship with self, connection and relationship with spirit through meditation. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And the secret to that is dedication, foundation, and practice. Yeah. You know, the more you practice, the luckier you get. And it's those sort of things. And for me, you know, why I'm different is I'd like to think, you know, I'm normal. And you know, for years, nobody knew my spiritual side. Nobody ever knew. Working in football for professional clubs in the Premier League and all of those things, you know, I couldn't say who I was. So on a Sunday I was Julian Jenkins, the medium, and on a Monday to Friday I was a chief executive or commercial director of a Premier League football club. And you know, nobody ever knew. My family, my wife knew, and my brother didn't even know. I was working in, it's a great story, it was a spiritualist church, and I was going there all the time. and I went to be a chief executive of a sports franchise in Geneva. And I went over there and we sold it in the end to Rolex and come home, and I went straight back to the Spiritualist church, and as was, the medium didn't turn up at the night, so I get a tap on the shoulder and said, would you go and do the service?
Oh, amazing.
And I was like, I haven't done it for 2 years, you know, what can we do? So anyway, I got up and did it, and I've done my reading and everything else, and then I start giving messages, and my brother walks in, sits down at the back of the church, and he looked at me and he went anyway, at the end of it, I come down, he was like, how, that's unbelievable, that's amazing. I said, Jay, he said, honestly, he said, I thought I was going to be punked, or like Jeremy Beadle was going to walk out with a camera and go, got you. And he said, you won't believe it. He said, you didn't know, but me and Dad used to come here for years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And you know, so I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it was my dirty secret in inverted commas. But, you know, going forward, I came out the spiritual closet 5 years ago. I lost people.
Yeah.
I won people. Don't get me wrong, when I go to my local football club, they'll go, oh, here he is, what's the score today, Jew?
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, all of that sort of stuff. And I get it. And they put a picture up behind the bar, and, you know, if anyone's not feeling well, they say, just look into his eyes, you know. I get it all.
Yeah.
But I understand that it's not nasty, it's not whatever.
Yeah.
They're my mates, and I've known them since you know,
Yeah.
I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah.
So, you know, I get it. But I think that's why what I teach is that you can have an everyday life, but you can live it spiritually with spiritualism.
Yeah.
And bring it together and you know, just
integrate it.
Just integrate it, just blend it, just have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And I think if more people did that and actually felt, not to disrespect what goes on, but to feel the things that I have felt and helped others feel, not about giving someone a reading to tell them, oh, don't buy a red car because it's going to crash.
Yeah.
It just winds me up. You know, it's important. And I went to the Arthur Findlay College, which is one of the world's leading colleges, 4 or 5 years ago. And when I came back from there for a week, I was so elated because all the things that Spirit had showed me was actually reinforced by some of the best spiritual teachers in the world.
Yeah.
And I realised that I had some of the best spiritual teachers in the world all my life. And I said to myself, I'm going to wake up Sunday morning and I'm going to know exactly what I'm going to do. They're going to show me exactly what I'm going to do. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And I owned it. I said, I went to the bar and I was in the day thinking, what am I going to do? So one of the girls who worked there, she was quite spiritual. I said, do you want to come to church tonight? She said, yeah, I'll come to church. So we went to church, sat down, and this lady got up and she gave some of the worst philosophy I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
And then she started off doing a reading saying, I've got a lady with me. Can anyone understand a lady and the sound of music? And I thought to myself, well, 50%, well, probably less now because it's changed a little bit, but 50% of the world at the time was either female or male. And I think everybody understands the sound of music. It was just such a generalisation poor, and I call it clear vagueness.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
It's just being so vague. Your grandmother, oh, I've got a lovely lady with me, she's a grandmother, she baked cakes and she's got a pit. Come on, man. Yeah. Why not turn around and say, I got your grandmother with me, your name was Claire and you used to do.
Yeah.
People say, how can you do that?
Yeah.
How can you do that? You can do it by practicing and not being lazy.
Yeah.
You can do it by having a real connection with Spirit. You can do it with all of these things. So my time at there was to say, why am I different? Because I don't suffer that.
Yeah.
Because it's not allowing us to move forward. Nobody's jumping over that spiritual bar. And that girl that was with me was like, this is rubbish. And we've lost her.
Yeah.
It's in a cult or a movement or whatever else. I just love her to know that, have that feeling of that there is something more than just this.
Yeah.
I want to be nice to help people. There is that compassion and all of those things.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you know, and whether that's laziness, whether that's not connection, whether whatever the scenario is, we can be better, we can do better. But what it means is you have to dedicate some time to it.
Yeah.
And you have to be with it. You have to surrender to it. You have to trust to it. You have to give it your time, 20 minutes a day, whatever the scenario is. And you know, come back to it. Just be nice.
Yeah.
So am I different? Yeah, because I don't want some of the historical horseshit that's gone around for many years that is being perpetuated.
It's not really how things
It's not really how it is. And you go to a spiritualist church on a Sunday, they're empty.
Yeah.
Go on a Wednesday when there's a clairvoyance evening, they're full.
Yeah.
People don't want the aspect of singing songs and doing that, because what they do want is they want to go and see a good medium who's going to potentially give them a message that their mother's passed and everything else.
That things are okay. Yeah.
So why not blend the two and have something? So I think there's going to be a shift. I think there needs to be a shift. And again, going back to Gordon Higginson when he said the next round of teachers are going to be ones who really understand deeply meditation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to have something really special that's going to be really average.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Fantastic. What does Spirit want for us?
Good question. I know what Spirit want for me, and I assume that would be carte blanche, is they want us to live a happy, balanced, spiritual life with clarity and purpose. But they want us to do it with compassion, they want us to do it with equality, they want us to do it with love. Underpins everything. They want this place to be what it potentially could and should be, which is a place where, you know, we can all live happy, fantastic lives. A lot of the stuff that's happening in the world today is wherever you think is generally down to our own doing. You know, illnesses. We're in the middle of COVID. We'll one day find out the real reason of that. And it maybe not about eating bats. Maybe there's another program just to talk on that for 4 hours. But you know, all of these things, what they want us to do, they want us to have happy lives, but they want us to have purposeful lives. They want us to understand all of the emotions, because we're working towards this ascension of true oneness, of feeling that real God particle of love and compassion and empathy and all of these things. So they want us to be happy. They want us to, you know, to change the way we're doing. We've been given such an amazing gift. Here, you can have other beliefs, there's another system, I'm on about this. We've been given such a wonderful place. And we've done an amazing job of completely shafting it. And we continue to do it. You know, it reminds me of the moth with the light bulb.
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's hot. Oh, that's hot. That's hot. We just keep doing the same thing. History has a huge thing of repeating itself. But as I said before, God won't get involved. This is our gig. Crack on. And I hope what they want us to do is to change the narrative, to change what actually is happening, for us to have this, you know, real place of equality. To have this, you know, nice place to be.
So a beautiful experience.
Beautiful experience.
Absolutely.
Will it ever happen? I doubt it.
Okay.
Do we have to try and get there? Yeah. And again, my role here is to leave this place better than when I found it. For my kids and their kids and for their kids. Because hopefully one day, if we don't push too many buttons, literally, then it will be better, and we have to do that. But unfortunately, ego, human, you know, it's another big subject. But you know, the world is littered with people who are unethical and all of those things. So, you know, ultimately, you know, they just want us to be the best we can. Success comes back to being the best that Natalie can be, being the best that Julian can be. And whatever that is, to whatever level that is, but just being happy. You know, just being happy, which unfortunately today millions of people aren't, for a plethora of reasons. But if we were mindful, if we were more grateful, you know, if we were more respectful, all of these words and terms that we want to use, appreciate things. Somebody said to me once, you only ever appreciate something just before you've had it and just after you've lost it.
Right, okay,
And that's probably where we are today.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of our freedom because of COVID and all of those things, and I think things will slightly change. The people who won't change.
Yeah.
And we're seeing some of that, you know, on the news with people who are not respecting social distancing and doing all of these things, you know, and you know, it's just interesting. And of course then chuck on top of all of that, all of conspiracy theories and everything else, they just want us to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay. So you're working on a big long-term project at the moment. So you talked before about your spiritual centre.
Yeah.
So with regards to tuning into your spirit guides, how much is it their project, or how much of it is yours, or how have they sort of guided you?
It's like anything, isn't it, really? They can manifest it. They can't manifest it because they're not physically here.
Right.
What we're talking about is physical buildings, physical
it's
places.
Coming through
coming
you,
through me to be able to
it's
manifest. The vision's coming from above.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm happy, and I don't like the word, you hear people say, I'm just a conduit, I'm a this, I'm a vessel. No, you're not. You're more than that. You're experiencing it, you're giving it its energy, you're doing it, you're consciously creating it. Yeah, you're manifesting it through the vision of what you've been shown. So, for me, I very rarely sort of stick my head above the parapet and say that's me, because I would like the humble side of it. But I found a book in the National Library, which was digitized online, and it was a history book of Llantwit Major, written in 1857.
Yeah.
And that goes to show you the depth of history. If a history book is written in 1857. Yeah. And it was written by this gentleman, and in the beginning he says that one day a man will come back to this town and activate what its true meaning and essence is.
Ah, okay.
And I do believe that's me.
Yeah.
And I never put my name to anything, because I don't want to, let's get him over there, he thinks he's something special.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I do believe, when I read that, I felt it inside me to turn around and say, and people in Llantwit Major, they don't even know what Llantwit Major is and how important it is. And this whole place here, this area, was so influential that just after Jesus died and the start of Christianity and all of these things, this whole area is incredible. And Wales with the Druids and all of those things, and it's just unbelievable. So that information and that passion and those things is being driven through me.
Yeah. But
I'm hoping the passion and the realization of what we're trying to do can manifest into others.
Yeah.
So people say, do you know what, June? That sounds a great idea. Why can't we have a forest where you can go for the weekend and do nothing and be, and just sit, read a book, chill out, do some meditation. Let's have a themed weekend. Let's have a mindfulness weekend. Let's have a mediumship weekend. Let's have a shamanic drumming weekend. Let's have something that allows us to check out. Because there was a word we used to use years ago, and it was a word called offline.
Right. Yeah.
There's no such thing as offline.
Yeah.
Before you'd have to dial in to go on the internet.
Yeah.
And then you take half an hour to load a screen.
Yeah.
You were going online.
Yeah.
We never come offline.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, is the ability to find yourself, to find your true essence, to find the real person that is hidden under all of these layers of dogma and education and all of these things. And that's when the spiritual awakening takes place. Millions around people around the world, due to the events over the last 6 months, have had these awakenings. And we have to be there for them to say, this isn't going to be a fun time, by the way.
Yeah.
Because, just to give you an example, when we have a spiritual awakening, all of the traumas that have happened in our lives, we've just pushed them away. And so I had a problem with my mother when I was 7. I thought I dealt with it. But what I did was, I pushed it to the outer extremities of my awareness. It's gone. Then I have a spiritual awakening, and my awareness pushes through that emotion. And then, because my awareness now is here, not here. So at the age of 35, I relived all of those emotions that I had when I was 7. That was horrendous.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I pushed it to the outer extremities of my awareness.
Yeah.
Then my awareness grew again, because I was awakening.
Yeah.
Then I had the same problem again. It's not until you bring it here that you can deal with it.
Yeah.
And for me, waking up is important, but more important is cleaning up.
Yeah.
And then we can move forward about ascending up.
You've cleared the path to
growing
absolutely,
up, ascending up.
Yeah.
Whatever term you want to use.
Yeah.
You can clear that pathway to do that. So the visions that I'm seeing will allow people to have an awakening, to understand their awakening, to be able to then clean up their awakening, to be able to create a foundation that they can go forward from. hence the name of the book. My life, for many years, this spiritual gift that I've been blessed with, was a burden. It wasn't until I finally woke up, cleaned up, and ascended up that it became a blessing.
Yeah.
And now I can help people who are on their own journey, because I've got the scars and I've got the tattoos.
Yeah.
And that's so important. So that's why I come back to things happen for us. They don't happen to us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so it's going to be a spiritual centre. It's in a very spiritual place.
Yeah.
It's going to be a spiritual centre. And what sort of things are you envisioning to be there?
So to be honest with you, if you looked at the two strands of spirituality and spiritualism, the spirituality is really important to me because it allows the gateway of true spiritualism. But spirituality is helping children. Don't worry about spiritualism. Let's park that right over there. Let's close that behind the door and pull the curtain down. Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about spirituality. Getting children to connect in with themselves. Moving away from, I hear so many children talking about, I'm anxious, I'm having anxiety attacks, I'm having these things. It's frightening. If kids can't be kids today, what chance have they got?
Yeah.
I was lucky. I was a kid of the 70s and 80s, born in 73. I look much younger. But it was kids of the 70s and the early 80s. I grew up in a really rough area, so I had skinheads and punks and all of those things. But I lived my life. I didn't have to worry about the things that kids are worrying about because of the bars that were all being shown. And I want to do forest schools for kids. I want kids to come and have an 8-week program where they don't go on their phones, they don't do this, they get their knees dirty and they get their fingers cut and they do all of these things, they climb trees, they do all of these things to get them to reconnect with nature, not technology.
Yeah.
And I want them to reconnect with themselves. So forest schools are going to be a big part of it. When the kids aren't there, then we'll have retreats. So, and I've been inundated already, and somebody came up with a great idea of having like a spiritual retreat for book writers. So like a literacy weekend. So people come in the woods, they sit in the woods all day, and they're influenced and chilled and relaxed, and they write, a story or whatever the scenario is, and then they can go back and in the night they can read what they've written based from the environment that they're in. Things like post-traumatic stress disorder, mental illness, anxiety, all of these things, depression. Getting the world's leading experts is my job, to go and get the best people to come and teach in these places.
And bring them back to their spiritual nature to heal.
Bring them back to being.
As opposed to looking outside.
Yeah. Instead of treating the symptom,
yeah,
which this world is fantastic at, is actually changing the relationship
from the inside
and
out,
the root cause that's actually making these problems. Because a lot of the stuff is to do with our environments and our mental. Our mind paints a completely different picture to the reality of the world. And the moment we can separate the mental narrative from the actual realization of the situation, things can be a lot better. So it's there for everybody, but importantly, it's there for everybody to come back to self, to be best self. And then if we can open that door and with higher self, that's great, but let's leave that door closed a minute. Let's stay with spirituality. It's about becoming human beings and not human doers.
Yeah.
And that is so important to me because it changed my life when my dad died when I was 35.
So if someone wants to support you in this project, or they want to find out more, or they want to find out when it's launching, how would they go about that? Have you got a newsletter? Or
So I've got a YouTube channel, Julian Jenkins Medium. I've got a website, julianjenkinsmedium.com. You'll see me on Facebook. I've got 2 profiles. One is my former Julian Jenkins in many ways, and the one now is my spiritual Julian today. So they can do that, and I believe that everything's a conversation.
Yeah.
So let's have a conversation. And if you want to help in any way, let's have a conversation. I have a vision and an idea. There's no invented here mentality. I'm open to people helping me. And the one thing that I know throughout my career and my life is I always surround myself by experts.
Yeah.
And I always like to be the least most intelligent person in the room, not the most intelligent person in the room, because then I know I'm in the right room.
Yeah.
And it's the same with this project. I've had the vision, but I need architects, I need designers, I need builders, I need funding raisers, I need crowdfunding, I need all of these things.
Yeah.
So if I'm not looking, put your hand on the screen, give me $10, you're gonna be healed.
Yeah.
if anybody can help,
And then
even if they've got an idea,
feel a
they
calling
can come
to
in.
come
Just,
and join
just a
in.
calling, just join in, because this project isn't about me. It's about us.
Yeah.
And it's about us bringing together something that I believe would be hugely special for a number of reasons. One, we're desperate for it.
Yeah.
Two, the location is the first seat of Christian spiritual learning in the year 500.
Yeah.
Was in this site, and that in itself, when you think about it, is
It's very special.
very special.
Absolutely. So there's loads more I'd love to ask you about, but to finish with, if everybody on the planet embraced their spiritual nature, how would the world look?
Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better. Maybe there wouldn't be any EastEnders or Emmerdale either, which would be fantastic. It would look a lot better, wouldn't it? It would look a place where we could really appreciate everything that's going on, and we could help each other. You know, there's no better feeling in anybody's life when you achieve something. There's no better feeling in your life when you share that moment with somebody. You know, and the ability to do that and be that is amazing. And people say, but look at him, the evangelical idiot, it's never going to happen. Maybe not, but you know, if we keep having and adopting that attitude of shortism, put my teeth in, then we're never going to get anywhere, are we? And you know, unfortunately, the world is ruled by politics. The world is ruled by people who want to rule the world, not develop the world or build the world or help the world. You know, and I hope that one day that changes. And don't get me wrong, everyone's going to have their own opinions and stuff. But if everyone was the right way around, then the world would be the right way around, and we wouldn't be, you know, having 95% of the world's wealth owned by 5% of the population. That can't be right.
So what's coming up next for you then?
Going to the pub.
Right, okay.
I don't know, I'm not drunk this week. What's coming up for me next? I think there's lots of things on the horizon. I've got new courses coming out on Udemy. We're looking at the Akashic Records, which is a very interesting subject, talking about your book of your soul, which has all of the things that you've ever done in this life, past lives, future lives, and all those things.
Brilliant.
Again, spiritualism is a belief system, you believe it or not. And that's one thing. We're helping to raise money for the Whel Foundation, which is going to build the spiritual centre, which is well-being, healing, education and love. That's what it stands for, Whel Foundation. We're creating, my mantra has always been be love and give love, which is love yourself before you can help and love others. So we're creating a Be Love, Give Love clothing range, which will, all the funds from that will go into developing the Whel Foundation and the Whel product. So we created Whel clothing, which is going to launch in the next 2 weeks. Working on the centre, working with some of the world's leading architects to design and build a master plan to go for pre-application planning. Because although we're spiritual, we've got to abide by the rules of the earth. So we're looking at things like that, plus more courses, plus helping people, plus mentoring, plus not much. It's going to be a pretty quiet season going into what could be a very interesting time in the world.
Absolutely.
With everything that's going on.
And so if people want to read your book, From a Burden to a Blessing, where can they get hold of that?
They can get hold of it on my website. I do signed copies on my website.
Brilliant.
If anyone wanted one. I never thought I'd be saying that. And also they can get it on Amazon. They can get it in Kindle or they can buy it on Amazon. So yeah, they can get the book. And it's just my life. Nuts and bolts. It's me, warts and all. And I did it, and when I wrote it, somebody said to me, what do you want to... I said, well, I don't want people to read it, I want people to experience it. I want it to be one of those books when somebody said, do you know what, I got this book, and the only reason I found it was, and they'll tell you the story how they found the book, because it's that influential. Yeah. And that's what I want. I want people to experience it, so I hope they do. So they can get on my website, julianjenkinsmedium.com, or they can get it from Kindle or Amazon.
Brilliant. Yeah, I read it and I thought it's very touching in places and very funny in places, and it's very clear. So, the information you're giving out is very clear and relatable. So
yeah, I hope so. I want to bring this... I want to take the stigma out of this. Yeah. I want to take the mockery out of this, and I want to bring it to the mainstream. Yeah. Because the only way you ever progress is if you win the middle ground. Yeah. And I would like to win the middle ground to say, just be nice.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to speak to you.
And you.